Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavane Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidishavadai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
May we be nurtured together. May we be nourished together. May we strive together. May our learning shine today. May we not quarrel. Peace. Okay, today's session is going to be a continuation of Yoga Shastra, or Patanjali Yoga Sutra, which is the 8 steps of meditation, called Ashtanga Yoga. We're borrowing the Yoga Sutras because it is an extremely well organized and detailed system. So for that reason, we can delve right into it. And the reason why we're writing down is so that by the end of the session, you may have a plan that is a structure how meditation works. That is our intent. And you'll notice that I'm not even going to talk about meditation until we've finished through chapter 6. The reason is because so many ideas get picked up around what meditation is and what it's not. So for that reason, we have to first clear up the false notions about it, and then at the end of chapter 6, we will have a guided meditation in the light of what we have learned, which will come much later. Okay? Last week, we spoke of Yamaha and Niyamaha. Remember? There's 8 stages in total in the Yoga Sutras, and we started taking down Yamaha, and it had 5 stages to it. Yamaha means what? Principles to abide, things to avoid. That means things not to do in life. The first one was Ahimsa, which is to avoid injuring yourself or others through thought, word, and deed. The second one was Satyam, which means to never speak what is not true. That means not lie. Of course, we understand sometimes lying is appropriate in very specific situations, but generally an honest person. Number 3 was Asteyam, which is non-stealing. In other words, not taking anything that does not legitimately belong to me, which I did not earn. Number 4 was Brahmacharyam, which is having an appropriate attitude towards the opposite sex, gender. And number 5 was Aparigraha, which is not allowing oneself to accumulate of anything too much. Whether it is fame, whether it is success, whether it is exercise, or anything that has a resourceful value. And then we spoke of Niyamaha. Niyamaha is what to live by. And Niyamaha also has 5 parts to it. The first one was Shaucham, which is purity, both internal and external. What does this mean? Is this pure, this action that I'm about to do? Is this word pure? Or does it carry a nature where I would not feel embarrassed or ashamed to speak in front of my mom or dad, right? So if it's something that would cause you to feel ashamed, then it's probably impure. The second Niyamaha was contentment. In other words, being happy with whatever you earn. This means that if one has earned a little, being happy with the little that one has earned. If one has earned a lot, then also being happy with the lot that one has earned. Samtosaha. And number 3 was Swadhyayaha. This is scriptural study. This means engaging constantly or regularly in something that has a reminding aspect of truth, of who I am, what is the world made of. Something that inspires you. 4 was tapaha, which is austerities or simple living. living in a way that does not require too much maintenance in life. Because, if you have too many things, then we have to maintain a lot of things. And number 5 is where we stopped, which was surrendering to God, which is Ishvara Pranidhanam. And then we spoke about what does it mean to surrender to God. So when we say God, what do we mean? We mean laws of karma. Karma means what? Action. Laws of karma which maintain the harmony of the universe. That includes both moral laws and physical laws. For example, when a bird jumps from one branch to the other, then it does so with harmony. It does not miss the branch. So this incorporated intelligence in the bird that knows exactly how far to jump from branch to branch, this is one of those laws built into creation. And we see it all around us in the way objects interface or interact together.
Do you have the word maryadas for those moral laws? Do you know what law is that from India? Is that Sanskrit? Maryadas?
Maryada, yes.
Well, do you know that?
Meaning what?
Maryada means staying in lines. Staying in lines. No?
No, it's more to do with the actual, as you were saying, the moral code.
Yeah.
For any living entity has their own moral code.
Right.
And the maryadas is the word, is the encompassing word for staying within the lines
Within the lines.
of the moral code.
Okay.
Yeah, within the lines of moral code or any code of conduct.
Yeah.
Stay within the boundaries of the moral code.
Yes, yes.
That's it.
And if I do so, then I will maintain the harmony in my life and the environment. In the same way, surrendering to God is acknowledging those laws, that if I were to come out of them, then there will be a distressful experience caused upon me and upon those whom have been in proximity of my lack of attention to the situation, which so rightly deserved the best that it could have. But due to my lack of alignment, I caused it to suffer. So surrendering to God means, of course, whatever I experience, I am what? Responsible. And I gladly accept whatever I receive because, we just said, moral laws and physical laws are an expression of Ishvara. So therefore, if something happens happy in one's life, then one fully and gladly accepts that because there is a what? A cause of the situation. In the same way, if something unpleasant happens, then one still gladly accepts it and says, whatever I get is what I deserve. Why? Because what I deserve is an effect, and every effect has a what? A cause. And whether I know about that cause or not, that doesn't matter, but at least I can still acknowledge that there is some cause. And the best thing that one can do in that moment is to accept what has happened and say, great, now let's deal with it in the best way possible. Now, I said the word accept. We often say accept. So what does accepting laws of karma mean? Because what did I just say about God? Laws of karma, which maintain the moral and the physical laws of the universe. Accepting those laws is surrendering to God. So the next question that comes up is, what do we mean by surrender? The answer is not resisting whatever experience is received. Because if I resist, what am I saying? I'm resisting an effect. But every effect has a cause. I said that. So this means if I resist an experience, by virtue of that, I'm actually denying that my responsibility in life. So what does it mean to accept an experience? It means to own up the experience and ask for help from those laws and say, God, give me the strength to deal with this situation, or give me the strength to deal with situations yet to come. So what are we saying here? That whatever happens will happen whether we like it or not. So the only option we have is to ask for strength to be available when something unpleasant happens. And also when something pleasant happens. Why? Because both can take the mind out of its presence. And then it generates a what? Samskara. And that samskara then makes the person not sleep very well. And that has a chain reaction the next day, preventing them from studying or performing or being present with people because they're thinking about something exciting from the present or the past. So accepting means what? What does it mean to accept God? Not criticizing whatever happens to oneself or to someone else. Because if I were to criticize, what am I criticizing? Effects. And every effect has a cause. And Ishvara is in the form of causes and effects that we observe in this order called the Jagat. So this means not ever subscribing to negative emotions when something happens upon oneself or upon a person that is close to you or someone that is not so close to you. Just understanding it. It is simply an effect of a cause. Surrender is called Sharanagati. Sharanagati. Okay, so these last three, niyamaha, which are what? Scriptural study, the last three. There's 5 in total. Scriptural study, tapaha, simple living, and surrendering to God. Are we all clear on what surrendering to God means now? So the last 3 are called, in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Kriya Yoga. I am not talking about SFR Self-Realization Fellowship of Yogananda. I'm talking about Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra is equivalent to Karma Yoga in the Bhagavad-Gita. What did I say about the last 3 being what? Scriptural study, tapaha, austerities, and surrendering to God. It's called what? Kriya Yoga, and Kriya Yoga is equivalent to Karma Yoga. That's what is Karma Yoga? Scriptural study, simple living, and surrendering to the ultimate cause. Why are we surrendering to the ultimate cause? We just answered just by saying ultimate cause. That one, because of whom the world is caused. In other words, we're all employees of Ishvara, and just like at work, you surrender to your boss. If you don't, then there's naughty business or something doesn't work in the entire corporation because one person is refusing to do their duty in their little role, in their little cubicle. Thus, everyone else related in that corporation suffers. Eventually, what happens? A distressful environment gets created in the institution, and then somebody reports that to boss, and then one gets kicked out. In the same way, being an employee of Ishvara, as a metaphor, that means if one does their duty, then just like when you do your duty in your little cubicle, everyone likes you. When one doesn't do their duty, then there's frowns and there's funny business behind backs, and it doesn't feel right. Okay, so in the same way, if one performs their duty, they are in harmony with the total, creating what experience in life? A general, well, smooth, healthy experience of austerities and not desiring too much, because you're happy. Okay. So what is the benefit of following these yamaha and niyamaha? You become a simple, decent person. That's it. Okay. Number 3. So number 1 of the 8 steps is yamaha. Number 2 is niyamaha. Number 3 is, remember, we're talking about meditation. Number 3 is asana. Asana means posture. Training to sit in one place still without moving for a length of time is asana. Asana deals with the Annamaya Kosha from the Pancha Kosha. Why is it important to sit in one place without moving? because if one is not trained to do so, then the body alone will distract one out of meditation, that is nididhyasanam. Thus meditation will have or reap no benefits. So one needs to find a decent place to be able to sit without moving. Whether it's a chair or crossed legs, it doesn't matter. Just not moving. That's number 3. Number 4 is pranayama. Pranayama is breathing regulation. This deals with pranamaya kosha of the 5 sheets, which spoke about last year, I believe. The purpose is, what happens when a bird is encaged inside a cage? Can it come out? So the bird stays put. In the same way, keep the mind encaged within the realm of the physical body. It's one step better than the mind flying out to past or the future. Now it's at least sitting well and happily in the physical body. If anyone has performed pranayama, will know how good it works for turning the mind inwards. It's extremely healthy and works very quickly. And you just have to focus on a specific breathing pattern to encage the mind so that it doesn't go out. The next stage is pratyahara, is withdrawing the mind and the senses from the external world. The most powerful being the eye, and what we said about the eye last week, as though looking at the tip of the nose, meaning what? The eyes are half closed. Next time you're in a train, attempt to close eyes half and you'll see how well it works. One cannot fall asleep and one cannot get distracted. Now, pratyahara, withdrawal of the senses, is equivalent to, if you know the text, tattva bodha, sadhana chatushtaya, a principle called dhamma. Dhamma is withdrawal of the senses. So we have two texts. Yoga Patanjali Sutra, pratyahara equals what? Withdrawal of the mind and the senses inwards. We have another text called tattva bodha. In step 1 of tattva bodha, we have sadhana chatushtaya, and one of the principles in sadhana chatushtaya is dhamma, which is withdrawal of the mind to the senses. You don't have to notice, I'm just bringing them together so you can see how they're all connected. Okay, now let's compare Patanjali Yoga Sutra to Bhagavad-Gita, just to show you how there's an equivalence between them. The first 2 of Yoga Sutra, being Yamaha and Niyamaha, are equivalent to general disciplines in chapter 6, called Bahiranga Sadhana. Remember I split chapter 6 into 5 parts? General disciplines in life. So, Yamaha, Niyamaha is equivalent to general disciplines in life. Patanjali Yoga Sutra 3 to 5, the Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, is equivalent to disciplines right before meditation called Antaranga Sadhana. Remember that? We spoke about general disciplines in life and then disciplines right before meditation. So now I'm bringing how Patanjali Yoga Sutra has an equivalence to that. And the last 3, which we'll now speak about, Dharana, which is focusing, Dhyana, meditation, and Samadhi, absorption, is equivalent to Dhyanam Swarupam, which is the nature of meditation according to verse 18, chapter 6 and onwards. You don't have to notice, I'm just showing you how they're compared. Okay, number 6. Dharana. Dharana is, what does dharana mean in Sanskrit? To focus, to fix, to hold. In other words, dharana means turning the mind away from the world and fixing it on the object of meditation. So there's 2 steps there. Turning the mind away from the world and then fixing it on the object of meditation. How do we compare this to a real-life example? What is dharana? Imagine a camera lens and there is an object in the distance. What do? When we get a camera, we have to adjust the focal length, the ISO, the aperture, until that object in the distance is what? Exactly in focus. So what does this mean? Effort. That means dharana is a lot of effort to focus the mind on the object of meditation. Now, what's the object of meditation? Ishvara. And what do we mean by Ishvara? What kind of Ishvara? That again depends on the level of understanding. We said before scriptural study, it is Ishtadevata, that means a personal deity. Buddha, Yeshua ben Yosef, aka Jesus. It can be Ganesha, it can be Allah, it can be whomever has a meaningful resonance with the person thinking about God. After study, the focus changes onto Vedantic meditation. And what is the official definition of meditation according to our Shastra? Saguna Brahman Vishaya Manasam Vyaparaha. Saguna Brahman means what? Brahman with Saguna, with gunas, which is what? Ishvara. Saguna Brahman Vishaya. Vishaya is the subject matter. Manasam Vyaparaha. In other words, Manaha means what? Mind. So the mind's activity is on the topic of Saguna Brahman. That's the meditation of Vedanta. So, what is meditation in Vedanta? Focusing the mind on Ishvara. Entertaining thoughts regarding Saguna Brahman, Ishvara. So this means one can only call it dhyanam if the object of meditation has a godly thought. If it's a thought about tomorrow, employees, or our family, it is not called meditation. It is just called contemplation about our attachments in life. And also the important fact is in Vedanta, we're not interested in a thoughtless mind. This belongs to yoga. Big difference. Because a thoughtless mind has no benefit. It's just relaxing. But a relaxed mind is still an ignorant mind. And when it comes out of the relaxation, it's still ignorant. So in Vedanta, we're not interested in a thoughtless mind, which we will get to, called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. However, we have a different definition. We're only interested in a mind free of worldly thoughts so that one may entertain Atman thoughts. See the difference? We're not interested in Anatman thoughts, we're interested in Atman thoughts.
So just the Saguna Brahman, we refer to a Brahman as being without form.
That depends on the person's understanding of Ishvara. Before it will be Saguna Brahman, after it will be Nirguna Brahman. And that depends on your understanding. So I cannot say what that is for you. But I will talk about what it means to meditate on a formless Brahman. Because I know what you're thinking now. How can I meditate on the formless? Because whatever thoughts I entertain about the formless, I'm not entertaining the formless. Because formless cannot be spoken of. So we will get to that. Okay, Dhyanam, number 7. Dhyanam is meditation. What does meditation mean? Retaining the mind. Mind means what? Thought. Retaining the mind on the focused object. So we'll do a comparison. What is Dharana? Step 6, Dharana is adjusting the mind upon the object of meditation. And what is Dhyanam? Retaining the established focus in step 7, in step 6, onto the object. You understand? So if you go to the wild, like a safari, and you see an elephant, and you get your camera, you have to adjust, you have to do a lot of efforts. Now, once you've adjusted, from then on, from that point on, it's called dhyanam, meditation. Because now, I don't really have to do a lot of effort, but I still have to what? Maintain the focused object. Because the focused object is still moving, isn't it? In our minds. So there's still a little bit of effort in Dhyanam. Now, the problem will be, of course, the focus will slip off. That's the nature of the mind. So don't take it hard on yourself if you say, my mind's always slipping off. So this means there will be a tug of war in Dhyanam. One moment, an Atman thought, I put it back to Atma. And then pasta comes in front of my vision. And then I remove pasta, I go back onto Ishvara. I'm looking at Ishvara. A memory from 20 years ago fills my vision, I remove that, I go back to the thought of Ishvara. So this is going to be a constant tug of war in step 7 Dhyanam. Which means what? Both Dharana is a lot of effort, but Dhyanam is a little bit less effort. But it's still effort. You know, the anatma thought's going to come in. Family members going to come in. Do you ever get, what kind of thoughts do pop up in your mind? Thoughts which, objects which you're attached to in life, or things which you're not attached to?
Attached to.
Always things that we're attached to in life, they're the ones that pop up. You know, if you're attached to your neighbor, they will pop up in the mind. If one's not attached to the neighbor because they don't know their neighbor, the neighbor is not going to pop up in one's mind. So the attachments that we have in life are the obstructions which will make meditation challenging to retain it on anatma thought. So what is the process of dhyanam? Effort or willpower to retain the mind on the object of meditation. There's still willpower involved. So yes, there is still a separate I who is applying the efforts. Okay, stage 8, Samadhi. Samadhi means natural absorption in the objects or in the object of meditation, which means distractions have ended in Samadhi. Which means in Dhyanam, distractions come and go, but in Samadhi, as a result of retaining my focus on the object of meditation, the distractions have naturally subsided. Which means the end of struggle is the case in Samadhi, while the struggle is still persistent in Dhyanam. And why does this struggle end? What happens when you repeat a thought over and over again? It becomes autopilot. No more effort. That means you can stop repeating, but the repeating still continues in the background. So, the technical definition of samadhi, we can say is sajatiya pratyaya prawahaha, which means, in English, flow of similar thoughts unobstructed by dissimilar thoughts. Which means there is a constant flow of similar thoughts associated with Ishvara, with God. Which means that the thought of God can change as long as it still symbolizes God. For example, suppose you're looking at Jesus' face. Now, doesn't it make any difference if you look at his lips or his eyes? No, because Jesus to you still represents God. So it doesn't really matter if the focus changes from lips to ears to hair, as long as it still retains the symbolism of reverence or godliness to the meditator. So, what happens if you have gone beyond Saguna Brahman and you are fully established in Aham Brahman Asmi? What then? Because you raise this question, right? What happens if one has already fully accepted that Ishvara cannot be put into form, that Ishvara is everything, and one fully knows the nature of the self is the same as the nature of the total? In that case,
You are enlightened.
Not yet. No, not yet. There's still a lot more work to do. In that case, the object of meditation will be thoughts related to Atma Swarupam, thoughts related to the nature of the self. What do we mean by this? For example, Aham Brahman asmi. I am Brahman. Aham Shuddha Chaitanyam asmi. I am pure consciousness. Aham Chidananda Arupa asmi. I am formless existence. Limitless. I am limitless, formless existence. Shivoham asmi. As long as Shiva represents God to you, it's okay. If you have a personal God, then you say Aham, that personal God, asmi. Okay, now let's investigate into Samadhi, because Samadhi absorption, there's misconceptions about Samadhi. So we have to talk about Savikalpa and Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So if the person follows these 8 steps, Ashtanga Yoga, which we just covered, so we're now finished covering the 8 steps, okay? Now we're going to revisit them into more detail. So you're going to keep filling more details in the last 3, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. So once these 8 steps are followed, the end result is Samadhi. And what is Samadhi? You've written it down. Natural absorption in the object of meditation. Which means I am absorbed in the object of meditation. You heard the statement. There is an I who is absorbed in the object. So that's Dvaita. You see? So there's still somebody absorbed in the meditation. Which means there's a still trace of I ego left who remains applying what? Effort to retain the absorption. What did we say earlier? The mind's constantly flowing from left to right. In order to retain that focus, I need what? The I, somebody needs to be there, a doer needs to be there, a hamkara needs to be there in order to what? Put the focus back onto the object of meditation. And when that has been done, then that one, because of the momentum of putting the focus onto the object of meditation, one falls into a Savikalpa Samadhi. So, Savikalpa Samadhi is the 8th stage, whereby the meditator is enjoying or appreciating the object of meditation. So Savikalpa Samadhi is still division between the subject and the object division. Subject being the I, object being the object of meditation. Which means that the subject and object is still pronounced, it's still evident, it's still felt. For example, when you sit down in a theater, you know that I sat down, I'm speaking I as you. So I sat down and I am sitting and I am doing the watching and I am enjoying the watched. You understand? So there is an awareness of this person, ahamkara, of the I, and there's awareness of that ahamkara enjoying the experience of watching the screen, the movie. Okay, so it is enjoyment, but there is still an awareness that there are 2 principles left. There is the enjoyer and there is the enjoyed. This is called Savikalpa Samadhi. Are we clear so far? Now, what happens after you're immersed into the movie? One begins to forget the I who's watching the movie. Right? That's your experience. I remember Avatar. Remember when they came out with the 3D glasses? Fantastic movie. I remember people telling me how, when they got out, they were not happy because the world of the Avatar was so immersive. And then when they got out, there was a division of subject and object. It came back. So after one has watched the movie and got slowly immersed into the picture, it is as though they are slowly transported into the picture, whereby the division of the subject and object dissolves. So there is nobody doing the watching, there is nobody doing the enjoying, there is just this. And when I say this, I'm talking about from the present moment of this, from the aspect of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. In the same way, when we watch a movie, there is just, from the aspect of the movie and being immersed in it, there is just this. Now, how do you know you've lost yourself in the movie? Because the reactions become pronounced. Okay, so Nirvikalpa Samadhi is whereby the subject and the object division are totally or temporarily resolved. Not completely, temporarily resolved. So, summary. The absorption whereby I forget the surrounding and I forget myself is called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. This means that the thought and the meditator is still present, but it's not felt due to the absorption. How do we know this? Because by the time you come out of the movie, you come back. Your thoughts come back. It's not like you've completely lost yourself. So it only remains in an unmanifest place, unmanifest state. But it's still there. But it's not felt because there's an absorption. So life's problems in that moment temporarily are not felt. But they're still there. You understand? They're in an unmanifested state. So the fruit of 8 steps in Ashtanga Yoga is Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Now, do you notice how Nirvikalpa Samadhi is not the 9th step? Why? Because the 8 steps are only a consequence leading to Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Okay, so they lead up to it. Okay, now let's do a revision. You can consider revision part 2. Now we're going to add onto Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi because there's a lot more to this topic. So from verse 18, Krishna is going to speak about Dhyana Swarupa, okay, which we're going to get into verses 18. And Dhyanam Swarupa means what? Nature of meditation. So how to meditate consists of Dharana, Dhyanam, and Samadhi. Once again, what is Dharana? Focusing the mind on the object of meditation or entertaining thoughts regarding the object of meditation. That's Dharana. For example, if you focus on a tree, we call this tree thought modification. In Sanskrit, we call this tree akara vrtihi. Vrtihi is a word you hear, thought modification. So, for example, book, akara vrtihi. What does vrtihi mean? Thought, akara, form. So, thoughts in the form of book, or thoughts which are related to the form of book. Ishvara akara vrtihi means what? Thoughts related in the form of Ishvara. You understand? Object akara vrtihi is the matter done in dharana. We are entertaining thoughts about what? Ishvara. Now, dhyanam. We're back to dhyanam now. Meditation. So the instruction in dhyanam, we're not going to go into an instructional statement. So since all thoughts only last momentarily, is that not true in your experience? How long does a thought last? Not more than 5 seconds. Yeah, very quick, very, very quick. That's the nature of the mind. So that means since all thoughts are momentary, that means thought akara vrtihi, the meditator, that means you, attempts to have the next thought same as the previous. So what is your object in dharana? Ishvara. And in dhyanam, once you focus the lens on Ishvara and no more anatma thoughts are coming, what are we doing? We are retaining that thought established in Dharana, and when the next thought comes up, which will be anatma for sure, husband, wife, child, then what do? We make sure that we put that thought aside and retain the same thought as the previous, which is Ishvara. So once again, the instruction is in meditation, since all thoughts are momentary, we ensure that the next thought represents or is the same as the previous. So if the previous thought was Ishvara Akara Vrtihi, the next thought will be what? Ishvara Akara Vrtihi. Let's do a little experiment. Close your eyes and think of a tree. Imagine a tree in your mind. Okay? Please close your eyes. Your only job now is to keep the tree in your vision. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to call random words, and you will see how the mind tends to draw itself to these random words. Your job is to retain your vision back onto the tree. Okay, so here we go. Airplane. Cold. Maybe. Clock. Elephant. Pinocchio. Carpet. Bird. Okay, open your eyes. So what was the experience? We're holding the thought of a tree, and when I call out random anatma thoughts, which is the nature of the mind wants to go towards that thought and make that the present object of meditation. So what did you do now in this experiment? Anatma thoughts came by, and you made sure that the next thought is the same as the previous. And how did you do that? Through what? Effort. You had to effortlessly go back to the tree. Now, after you do this for a while, it becomes autopilot, and the effort's no longer required.
I didn't experience the image what you're saying.
Huh?
I only thought of the tree, and I can hear you.
Yeah.
But
right.
I'm not thinking of the elephant or whatever.
That's right.
I
But
just kept
hear the
looking
word,
at the tree.
but
I
don't
had
do
a
the
tree in my mind, and
association.
the tree was there.
It depends how clear how sharp you are in your mind. So some people, if you say one word, they'll totally flock to that word. Make the whole world.
You should have said ice cream or something like that.
Yeah, right. Gun. Boom. But when one's meditating by themselves, it's a lot more powerful because they're personal thoughts. And personal attachments are always more powerful than someone else telling you random words. So, question is, how does dhyana lead to meditation? What's the logic? Dhyana means what? Deliberate, repetitive thought. So how does deliberate, repetitive thought lead to samadhi? Samadhi is absorption. The answer is, by constant repetition, you generate a impression, vasana. That's the nature of the mind. Anything repeated over and over again is going to generate a subconscious vasana, an impression. For example, japa. Japa means maintaining the name of God in a form of a mantra. How about music lyrics? Did you ever have a song stuck in your head? Absolutely. Why? Because the song had a particular appeal to it, especially the chorus part. And then when the song stopped, what happened? The music had a life of its own. Now, wouldn't it be nice to have Aham Brahman Asmi, like music lyrics, and you can't get rid of it, instead of having some, what's today's popular group, band, song being in the form of lyrics? In the same way, we're taking advantage of repetition to induce an impression which will, in the subconscious, play back over and over again. Obviously, the impression will be one of the nature of Atma Swarupa. Or, for example, when you paddle a bicycle, paddling, and then suddenly there's a downhill, and then there's no need to paddle, but the person's still paddling. You had that experience? Why? Because the consistency, the repetition of paddling has created a vasana, an impression that even when it's no longer needed, it still continues and has a life of its own. Or kirtanam. Some of us like to go to kirtanam and sing. The kirtanam has ended, and then you're in your kitchen chopping onions and making food, taking the trash out, and then in the background, what happens? The music's still playing. In the same way, how does dhyanam lead to samadhi? Because what do you do in dhyanam? Repetitive thoughts of the object of meditation being Ishvara. As a result of repeating, it ends into what? A impression in the subconscious mind. And when it's an impression, do you have to think about it? Do you have to think about those repetitive music lyrics? No, it's got a life of its own. So that's when the person's I is no longer required, and that's called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Music lyrics is a gross thought. Why? Because you can perceive it. But when you walk away from it, it becomes what? A subtle thought. Why is it subtle? Because it's not evident right now. It becomes a subtle thought in the aspect it's in the background. So it's very subtle. And what does a subtle thought mean? I am not aware of it. That's why we keep repeating the lyrics over and over again. And we can't stop ourselves because we're not aware of them. And they just keep playing back. So the subtle thought is called sukshma vritti, subtle thought. For example, in deep sleep, the subject-object division has resolved. There's no person that's sleeping, and there is no sleeper. There is just unity. There's just one wholeness, nothingness. However, the sukshma vritti is still registered. The sukshma vritti of what? Deep sleep is still registered. Now, how do you know that it's registered? Because tomorrow when we wake up, what do you say? I slept well. How do you know you slept well? Because even during deep sleep, the thought was registered. And thus, in the waking state, I can recall that thought and say how I slept. I slept well. Now, did you also notice that when you experience something, later on you recall that experience, do you not? Right? If you experience something, let's say 5 days ago, and then you recall it today, so that means what? The one who experienced it is still here recalling it. You understand? So the experiencer and the recaller are always one. Is that clear? So, what do we say about deep sleep? I slept well, right? After waking up. So this means what? I remember, there's a remembrance of the experience of sleeping well, which means what? The experiencer and the rememberer are one. That's why you say, I slept well. That means the you, the I, was there in deep sleep and is still present when they say, I slept well. So the experiencer and the rememberer are always one. Just when you say, I slept well, that alone gives it away. That you means what? Consciousness has experienced deep sleep. Okay, so again, how does dhyanam lead to samadhi? Summary: repetitive thought as a result of the momentum causes the I to temporarily dissolve, and that causes the subject-object division to no longer be present. It doesn't mean it's gone, it's just not felt. Samadhi, number 3. So we're doing more revision about samadhi. So samadhi is a state of constant flow of thoughts regarding the same subject matter. Okay, constant flow of thoughts. A continuation of thoughts. Uninterrupted by anatma thoughts. So what does Savikalpa mean? I know of fill in the blanks. There is an I who knows. In Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the division of subject-object, the knower and the knowing, is not present. It's temporarily resolved. A metaphor, for example, is if you put salt in water, then what happens with the salt? It dissolves. So the salt being the attempter, the I who's attempting, and the water being the whole, when the salt's put into the water, then it dissolves. In other words, the salt is not experienced. What do we mean by experienced? It is not felt. It is not seen. But we still know the salt is present, do we not? However, because it's dissolved, it is not experienced. In the same way, the thought of I is dissolved in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, but it is not gone. It is not experienced. Verses 18. Now we're going to go into even more detail about this. Yada viniyatam chittam atmanyeva vatishthate niksprahas sarva kamepyaha yukta ityuchyate tada. Viniyatam chittam. Verse 18 is talking now about process of meditation. So what happens in the process of meditation? Viniyatam chittam. In other words, the mind is withdrawn from external objects. Now, withdrawing does not mean physically withdrawing. You cannot withdraw the mind physically from the world. Only in the form of connected to what? Thought, akara, vrtihi. Connected to the office, connected to work, connected to family, connected to work. In other words, anatma thoughts are not entertained. Okay, that's the topic here. So during meditation, if there are anatma thoughts, anatma means what? Not self, then that is not meditation. Then you need to go what? Back to dharana and focus the lens until the object of meditation is established. And what are we drawing the mind from? Past, future, past regrets, future concerns, present problems. Because what else is there than the world, personal problems, and our family? That's basically what pops up in the mind. Sarva kamepyaha niksprahaha. So having detached from anatma, the withdrawal takes place successfully. In other words, having detached from worldly thoughts, the withdrawal has been successfully done. So this means learning to detach from anatma. Because as I said, the thoughts always related to what? The world, self, personal self, and our family. And what hovers in our minds? Thoughts of attachment. Whatever we're attached to, a car, a house, money, business, colleagues, that's exactly what shows up in meditation. Now, I know you're going to ask me, how do you detach? But we already discussed that many times in previous classes, so we're not going to put that in verse 18. Okay, what does attachment mean? Suppose you're holding a book and you want to grab another book. How are you going to do that if you only got one arm? I need to what? Detach from this book in order to put another book in. So I need to what? Detach from anatma thought in order to put the thought of object of meditation being Ishvara, being the self. So detachment is necessary in meditation. Otherwise, as long as the mind's holding an anatma thought, meditation is unsuccessful. It cannot happen. That's what attachment means. Okay, question. After withdrawing the mind from attachments, what then? What do you do then? So suppose you got no thoughts in your mind now and you're meditating and you're clear. What now? What do we do next? We're getting there. Atmani eva avatishtate. Okay. Atmani eva avatishtate. The mind resides in Atma. So what do we do after having withdrawn? The mind then resides in Atma, which means entertaining relevant thoughts regarding the nature of the self. So the mind dwells or abides in Atma. Now, what does this mean? Okay, look carefully, because we're going to get we have to resolve this dualistic notion now. When I say mind is residing in Atma, you're probably going to think, how is that possible? So, if I have this pen and I put it on the table, we call this, the pen is abiding or resting on the table. If I take the pen off the table, then we say the pen is not abiding or resting on the table. You agree? Now, this worldly example cannot apply between the comparison of mind and Atma. Why? Because Atma is all-pervading consciousness. So I cannot put my mind onto something that is already true right now. So what is Atma? All-pervading consciousness. And it's never away from the mind. So how can I put the mind onto Atma? Does that not mean that Atma is in some other place? I'm now subjecting consciousness into what? Time and space. And I'm subjecting that one who is attempting to place itself onto Atma as another separate reality from consciousness. So it is not a question of mind coming to Atma. You understand this? This means if I'm trying to search in my experience of meditation, and I'm trying to search for Atman, some experience of Brahman, so that I can place my mind like I place this pen onto the table, that is an inherent flaw. Because Atman is the nature of the entire universe. Everything is pervaded by consciousness. So we cannot now place the mind onto consciousness when it is already consciousness and it's already pervaded by consciousness. So, bringing the question back, what do we mean when we say the mind dwells on Atma? What does it mean to say it is abiding on Atma? The answer is, okay, what does dwell or abide mean? We discussed this earlier. The answer is, one entertains thoughts regarding Atma. I said this previously. We're not interested in a thoughtless state. We're interested in thoughts pertaining to the subject matter. Saguna Brahma Vishaya Manasam Vyaparaha. The mind's focus is on the subject matter of Saguna Brahman. Let's quickly go through the difference between yoga meditation and Vedanta meditation. The ultimate benefit, the ultimate culmination in yoga world, I'm talking about now the 500, 1,000 hour yoga certification courses, by the way. The ultimate benefit, the ultimate prize by succeeding in the Yoga Patanjali Sutra is a thoughtless state. If you travel the Himalayas and you meet some yogis, every single one of them, actually we can't say every single one, most of them will talk about attaining a thoughtless mind called Nirvikalpa Samadhi, a very glorified state. Vedanta rejects this. Why? Because we clearly say that a thoughtless mind is a not useful mind. You're just very relaxed. So if you want to be relaxed, go ahead, have a thoughtless mind. But then again, to be relaxed, you can achieve that much quicker. Go drink something. Go take a pill or a relaxing tonic or something. So the point of going through so much effort, because to go from 1 all the way to 8, and then from 8 into Nirvikalpa Samadhi, that's a lot of effort. That's years of effort. Only to get a thoughtless mind, and why? Because the I who's meditating is still ignorant. So what has it really achieved? The I who's ignorant is now thoughtless. Now whether whether it is thoughtful or thoughtless, that same I is still ignorant. So nothing really happened. For this reason, Vedanta meditation does not equal thoughtless or empty mind. This belongs to the yoga world. I asked the question, how does the mind abide on the self? The answer was entertain thoughts. So the next question is going to be, what are Atman-related thoughts like? Can you give us some examples of what kind of thoughts to be entertained when or during Samadhi? That means when the mind's completely still, like a flame, not moving or blown by the breeze. We can say, for example, I am consciousness, by which this body-mind intellect, including this very thought of saying I am consciousness and it is the awareness of this body-mind intellect. So I am the conscious principle by which the body-mind intellect and this thought also that I am now making to myself are known. Even the thoughtless state of my mind is known by awareness, which I am. In other words, I am the awareness of both a thoughtless mind and a thoughtful mind. It doesn't matter whether the mind is completely empty, there's nothing in it, or whether it is full. I, consciousness principle, am that by which illumines both the thoughtful mind or the thoughtless mind. Another example is, I am consciousness, and whatever happens, whatever illumines, whatever I illumine, that which I illumine cannot disturb me. Like, for example, hand moving in the light. The light is consciousness, right? The hand's moving. Is it now touching the light in any way? No. So we can have so many things happen here, but it doesn't affect the illumining source. And that illumining power, principle, I am. So this means whatever happens in my mind, in my life, funny emotions, unpleasant, pleasant, it doesn't touch me, consciousness. So these are the kind of thoughts that we entertain. I am formless. Just like the light. Is the light form or formless? It is only because the light is formless that it can illumine what? The formed hand. If the light was form, then that form would superimpose itself over the form, and thus I could not distinctly make out the form which the light illumines. In the same way, I am that light which illumines the forms and gives forms their form. You understand? These are examples that we are entertaining during meditation. Another example, thoughts arrive and depart, but the consciousness which illumines those thoughts remains unchanged or unaffected. For example, suppose this hall is your mind, and the people that are walking through that door are thoughts. And the light, which is illuminating this entire hall, that is your mind, is consciousness, which you are. Now, what happens when a person that's a pleasant person, a pleasant thought walks in? What do you have? You have a pleasant experience, you say, wow, I'm joyful. But that person walks out, do they not? They arrive and they depart. Now, suppose another dirty person walks in, and like some kind of a thought that is unpleasant, and they cause havoc. Does that havoc in this hall affect the light? No. So the light illumines both the pleasant thought and the unpleasant thought, but the light, that is I, am never touched by whatever thoughts I illumine. And even if you think about it, even if a person wants to come in, that is a thought, and wants to create chaos in this hall, can they do that if I turn off the light? No, because they can't see anything. So that means even a bank robber cannot rob a bank unless a light is shining. So it's only because the light is shining can I go rob a bank successfully. And then when I get caught and I am in the hall of the court, the light keeps shining, illumining both me and the judge. And then when I'm put into jail, the same light is still shining, illumining my experience being in the jail. So the light in the bank, the light in the court, and the light in the prison are all the same, and yet the experiences are constantly changing, are they not? So I am that consciousness which illumines the constant arrival and departure of various thoughts, whether they are healthy or unhealthy. That means that I, consciousness, my nature, Atma Swarupa, is never affected by any kind of thought. Question?
I was wondering about the type of thoughts we're doing. How broad can they get? They're all about self-inquiry.
Yeah.
Are you sort of like repeating the same words in your
No.
mind, or are we doing pretty much as you were doing then?
Yeah, exactly what you just witnessed now is what you're doing. Creating it in the form of what? Lessons you've learned where? In the class.
Yeah.
I'm all pervasive, I'm all pervading, I am indestructible, I'm immortal, I am permanent, I am unchanging. Whatever thoughts arise in the nature of Aham Brahman Asmi, that's your thoughts. I just gave you some examples.
Yeah, and so it's basically what you've been telling us to do daily and at all times.
At all times. So what's the point of doing meditation, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess it's just more intense.
It's more effective. Because when we do it throughout the day, most of our mind is still agitated. This means that the mind in the world, the rajasic mind, can only provide so much benefit. But when you relax and the mind's completely still, not entertaining any anatma thoughts, it is completely available for what? Contemplation of Atman thoughts. In other words, a thought of Atman related thought, is, you can say, 100 times more powerful in meditation than in normal life. That's the benefit. Okay, you don't have to, but the benefits are huge. Okay, because when you're relaxed and this mind is sattvic, a perfect mind for assimilating the knowledge, that's the perfect time to introduce an Atma-related thought, like the examples I just gave you, and then the power of it sticking in the subconscious and becoming integrated, actualized, is tenfold greater. Some Sanskrit examples. Aham arupaha, I am formless. Aham asangaha, I am independent. Aham nityaha, I am unchanging. Aham sakshi, I am the witness. Aham shuddha, I am pure. So what's the common example in all these thoughts? They're all related to consciousness sakshi. I am the consciousness sakshi, the witness of everything. So we are entertaining any kind of thought related to the nature of self, consciousness, awareness. Yuktaha iti uchyate, absorbed. So what's the benefit of what happens in samadhi? One is iti uchyate, one is said to be yukta, absorbed in what? In one's nature. Okay, so two types of samadhi. Once again, revision. Savikalpa Samadhi is whereby effort is involved. In this case, the ego is still dominant in Savikalpa Samadhi. There's still an I trace left to experience the nature of purity. In other words, the individuality is still pronounced in Savikalpa Samadhi. There is still a person called Andre in Savikalpa Samadhi. And Nirvikalpa is once this effort of focusing the mind on the object of meditation has been sustained long enough, then it becomes automatic. Just like watching the movie, after some time, you naturally sort of the picture and I become one. In the same way, Nirvikalpa is whereby the attempter, the person, the meditator, and the meditated are one. For example, every cyclist is a Nirvikalpa Samadhi, Samadhin. When you ride a bicycle, what are you doing? Savikalpa Samadhi, right? You're maintaining the cycling, are you not? And when you stop cycling, do you have to continue cycling? No, because of so many impressions of pedaling, I now let go and autopilot, I am a Nirvikalpa Samadhi rider. Verse 19. Yata dipo nivatasto nengate sopama smrta yogi no yata chittasya yunjato yogam atmanaha. Verse 19 is going to answer what is samadhi like. When I say like, I'm not talking about experience, I'm talking about the mechanics. What is supposed to happen in samadhi? Okay, when the flame is lighted in a lamp and it's kept in an open place, what happens to it? A flame. It flickers. So what does this mean? The flame moves according to the direction of the wind. And because of the breeze, and because the flame is unprotected, it moves. Thus, it is not still. Which means to still the flame, you need what? An enclosure, a glass enclosure, right? So in meditation, comparing it now, the flame is a thought. So the problem in meditation is when you entertain an Atma-related thought, it doesn't stay too long. They're not retained. Why? Because another thought quickly arrives, an Atma thought. It's almost like there's a sabotage system built in, preventing us from focusing on what's most important, at least during meditation. So this means that thoughts in meditation flicker due to external and internal circumstances. Internal being what? Vasanas. External being what? Sounds, the air. Suppose someone's cooking in the kitchen and then the smell reaches your nose. That alone is enough to disturb the flame of the mind. So, when the flame is steady, this is what we call Nirvikalpa Samadhi. What was the original question? What is Samadhi like? The answer is, when the flame of the mind, what is the flame? A thought related to what? Atma. So when this Atma thought is steady, only then it is worthy of being called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And why can we not have a Nirvikalpa Samadhi about an Anatma thought?
Because it's changing.
Excellent. Because whatever object from the world that is presented in my mind, I can look at that object in so many different angles. So it constantly keeps the I alive, the ahamkara. Because the object in itself has infinite angles, does it not? But Atma is changeless principle, consciousness, which makes the flame still. In the case of flame and lamp, what keeps it steady? A glass enclosure. So the question will be, what then keeps the mind steady during meditation? What keeps the flame of Atma thought steady during meditation? The answer is Vairagyam and Bhakti. Vairagyam is dispassion, and Bhakti means devotion. Bhakti we will heavily go into in further chapters in the Gita. It is not the right place in chapter 6. However, Vairagyam means dispassion towards what? What did I say earlier? What kind of thoughts arise in our minds? Thoughts which we are attached to. So, dispassion towards those objects which we are attached to, which usually involve the past the present, or the future. So the question you're going to ask now is, how do I be dispassionate during meditation in order to retain a steady flame of Atma thought during Samadhi? The answer is, besides the many answers already given in the preceding sessions, one I'll give now is surrender them. Sharanagati. I started with surrendering to God, remember? God meaning what? Laws of karma that maintain the harmony of the entire universe. I am surrendering, at least temporarily, the very laws that maintain the order of the universe. So I say, God, please have these thoughts, take care of my children, take care of whomever it is that I'm concerned about. Please just help me to have a mind that is able to be primed and open for meditation. You're asking for help. You're making a verbal declaration. You're surrendering that which doesn't belong to you to the original creator. Because your thoughts are not yours. They just belong to different objects which the body has been exposed to. If my body's been exposed in the world of, let's say a car salesman, then, I'm just going to innocently have cars in my mind. But I didn't create cars, did I? So what does it mean to surrender your thoughts? I'm surrendering objects which I did not create because they're not yours. That's why it makes sense to surrender your wife to God or your husband or your children, at least during the time of meditation. And lastly, the most important point is, once again, look not into Savikalpa and Nirvikalpa as a mystical experience. This is something that we have to clear up. Nirvikalpa is something we all have throughout our life, especially when we're young. If you have a baby, you're lucky because you will see very soon, or you will see already, that when a baby sees something, an object, and you put your hand in front of the baby, what happens? It's as though the baby's still focused on the object. It's completely at one with the object of its meditation. So that means even if I put something in front of it, it's as though there's nothing in front of it, because it is fully one with the object. So this is an experience that we all have at different times in our life. But if you think about sports, why do people love extreme sports like bungee jumping and extreme skydiving over and over again? Totally one with the experience, right? Because it temporarily subsides the I, the enjoyer. So the I temporarily subsides, and all there is just this. If you ever jumped out of a plane, then you know what this means, right? You're just with the moment. Or even if we're reading a book, what do we sometimes say? Oh, the book is so absorbing. I was totally absorbed into the book. Or I'm totally absorbed into my programming, or into my painting, or into my gardening. So this absorption, whereby nobody's programming, there's just programming, right? This is what we call Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So this Nirvikalpa Samadhi is what we all have. So there's a natural line of effort of maintaining the thought in concentration, becoming a focused object in Dhyana. The momentum has caught up in Samadhi, and because of the momentum, it has now no longer requiring a separate I to continue the momentum. Next week, verses 20 to 23, we'll talk about the culmination of Dhyanam Swarupa, which means what? The nature of meditation, being Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And there's 7 different types, which is the consequence of Ashtanga Yoga by Patanjali Yoga Sutras. Okay, so to get more on this, then join us next week. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.